The basic intention of doing this small video clip is to read out a beautiful incident regarding the presentation and unveiling of portrait of Mahatma Gandhi. This has happened on 28th of August 1947. This is itself the incident which I'm going to read it out. It happened in the Constitutional Hall, and really this deserves to be heard because of the best known reasons. Well, then the president, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, starts the whole process. He calls upon Mr. Patani. Mr. A.P. Patani, he represents from the Western Indian states. It's a happy privilege to place the following motion before the House. Resolved that the Constituent Assembly of India do accept the portrait of Mahatma Gandhi by Sir Oswald Bigley, bequeathed to the nation by Sri Prabha Shankar Putani. It is not possible to express in words the happiness I feel today, standing in this Constituent Assembly of my country to discharge a trust and fulfill the wishes of my late father. The portrait that is to be unveiled presently was painted by a great portrait painter, Sir Oswald Berkeley, in England during the second round table conference, and my father purchased it, and I may inform the House that Sri Oswald had painted the portrait for himself. He agreed to part with it because my father wanted it and it was for India. When it arrived in India, however, it was put away carefully in its original packaging and we were not allowed to see it, neither the family nor the friends in England could obtain from him the information as to what his intent to do with it. But sometime after the Act of 1935 was passed, he told me very privately that he intended to present to it to the nation when Sri Government of Indian Act was inaugurated. Time passed and there was a hope of the Act coming was inaugurated. Time passed and there was no hope of that Act coming into operation. My father passed away in February 13, 1938. Almost 10 minutes of the time when he planned to fly from Bhavnagar on 16th February to Haripura to meet Mahatma Ji. That program and the meeting was subsequently cancelled by other circumstances, but before his death, he told me 2 or 3 times to bear in mind this portrait and his wishes regarding the same. As I submitted, sir, the Act of 1935 did not materialize, but when the new government was to be established in the Act of 1947, I spoke of the message of my father, which I shall mention presently, and of the portrait of our Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. That in brief, sir, in the history of this occasion. I would like to take an opportunity to say a few words about Mahatma Ji. I do so with reverence and the great diffidence, for I am conscious that anything I say about Mahatma Ji would be like attempting to measure the mountain of Kailas with a foot rule. Or it is said that in Shastras, trying to describe the beauty and the grandeur of Himalayas in a pen and ink, and yet I myself and some other honorable members of the House may be permitted to take a little pride that we belong to Kaitwar, that land of Krishna, Sudhama, Nasi Mehta, Dayanand Saraswati and Mahatma Gandhi Ji. If we take a pride in this fact, we should also try and follow these examples, especially the examples of Mahatma Ji, whom he lived for with and seen, for he has been and is a friend of princes and the people. He belongs himself really to no community, he has no country, he has no home, the world is his home. And mankind has across all the distinctions and loved all were honest, upright and God-fearing, and he was on high plane of the spirit and attracted my father and made him a humble follower of Mahatma Ji. It was a Bapu himself who told me that Sambandh, the English language, has no word like Sambandh. Bigger, when my father first wrote to him when he was in South Africa, this was, I believe, in the last century. The great facts of modern life and the facts of world history is that the Mahatma Ji discovered at the root of all the troubles, both in India and England, was the influence of foreign rule in the country. Having made his discovery, he set himself to solve it, and by leading out an unarmed revolt, he brought India to freedom. It is not for us all to make a success of this achievement, and that friend he has given us many nourishes everybody and led us to the better life. In conclusion, it was my father's wish that the picture should be delivered to the nation. In his own words, these were, "It is a portrait of saint who labored more than anyone else for peace and who preached non-violence, which is ultimately the only way in the human affairs." But sir, in the message I am to deliver, and there is the portrait. I have done my duty. I request that the portrait be unveiled. Later on, the President Dr. Rajendra Singh in his own hands unveiled the portrait with a large applause and cheers. Mr. President, honorable members, again Dr. Rajendra Prasad addressing the members. I am sure I am expressing a sense of gratefulness of all the members of the House of Mr. Patani for presenting which he has made to the House. There was a loud applause, and it was happy inspiration that the late Prabhashankar Patani, who have preserved this beautiful portrait for so many years, to be handed over to the nation on this auspicious occasion when India has got her freedom. And it is happy moment for all of us that we have lived to me this portrait unveiled and his house on this occasion. It would be a presumptuous on my part, particularly because I happen to be one of those fortunate many who have had the fortune and privilege to serve under Mahatma Gandhi ji. For so many years, cheers, and he says anything about the work which he accomplished. He came to us at the time when the country was looking for something which would help it out for difficulty. We had experienced a great sense of frustration, which comes after the attempts made which have failed. The country has made many attempts to become free. It was looking for something that would give it necessary impetus above all. The kind of weapons which was enabled to win the freedom. Mahatma Gandhi ji opposed the spirit and gave the weapon of hands of people. And although we may not have come upon his expectation, we have at least succeeded under his guidance and inspiration in winning the freedom for which we have all been longing for so many years. It is not only in the field of politics, but there is hardly in any field in the life of the human being which has not been in some way or the other touched and brightened by Mahatma Gandhi ji. Again an applause, whether we go to the village slum or the city slum, or whether we go to the big palace or the rich millionaire or a big Maharaja, there is hardly any place which his influence has not been felt. And I felt very much indeed. The influences has been permeated our life to an extent which probably we do not ourselves quite appreciation and fully realize that the greatness of Mahatma lies in this. That is, the time passes, as the age passes, the influences which has been exercised not only to our eyes but on the current world history will be more and more appreciated and more refused. Such men are not often easily born, and they come once in the history of world to turn the course, to change its current. And here is Mahatma Gandhi ji, who is our privilege and a good fortune to serve under today, who has turned the current history of mankind, who has in his own lifetime seen how the works which have been started borne fruits and bearing more and more precious fruit every day. The miracles which he has wrought in our life, and so many would have been impossible for any of us to recount them all in a short speech. We all know how we have made the heroes out of clay, how we have molded men of ordinary caliber into a man of great capacity, of great culture, and a great achievement. He has not only done that, he has created a nation as a whole part very individual, a longing for the freedom, and also, in a way, his work fulfilled a long time. So it is that we stand here today to pay a homage. This picture, which has been presented for us, will be a will be in this house, reminding every member also to sit in those benches of the great part which had played in our history and the world history at most critical and momentous time. It will remind the members of the great duty which we owe to the country. It will remind all of us the great heritage which he represents and which we all of us have got, got from our forefathers. And above all, it will remind us how the freedom that we have won has to be utilized for the good of all. Let us hope that this picture will serve the purpose and shall prove the worthy of the great Mahatma who had led us to this goal. There is a loud cheers will be there. On behalf of the house, I finally accept this portrait. I hope you will all agree to this. Finally, a member, Sri H.V. Kamath, stood up. Mr. President, may I say in all humility, venture to suggest that it will be essential in the fitness of the thing if alongside this magnificent portrait of Mahatma Gandhi, the father of Indian struggle, the hall of the assembly was adorned with a portrait of Lokman Balgangadhar Tilak, as well as the father of the Indian Revolution, and again the father of the Indian unrest, and also that of the Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, the father of Indian Revolution. That, sir, will be a thoroughly adequate and pictorially symbolic representation of the three distincts, the three well-marked stages of our struggle for the political emancipation. I have no doubt, sir, that this assembly will accept these portraits with joy and gratitude. Will you, sir, be good enough to permit the presentation of such portraits on a subsequent occasion? Mr. President, the House will now adjourn at 10 o'clock tomorrow. The Assembly will adjourn till Friday, 29th of August 1947 at 10 a.m. The source from the Constant Assembly debates, and this has been dedicated to my editor, ma'am, from Mysore. Thank you.